The most misunderstood people aren't the ones who beg others to stay. They're the ones who leave without a word. One day they're there, the next day they're gone. No drama, no explanation, no second chances. Researchers have spent decades studying loneliness, rejection, and human connection. But one question remains strangely overlooked. What makes someone stop wanting people altogether? Most people think these individuals are cold, detached, maybe even heartless. But psychology tells a very different story. Because the moment someone cuts everyone off doesn't begin the day they leave. It begins years before that. And once you understand what happened during those years, you'll never look at these people, or yourself, the same way again. There was a version of you that tried. God, did you try? You were the one who remembered birthdays nobody remembered back, the one who checked in during hard seasons and never got checked in on. You drove across town at inconvenient hours. You sat with people in their worst moments. You talked them off ledges. You held space for their grief, their chaos, their endless cycles. And then watched them walk back into the same fire and call you again next time it burned them. You were not just a friend. You were a resource, a 24-hour helpline with no hold music, no closing time, and no one asking how you were doing. And the cost of that? Nobody counted it, not even you, for a long time, because you told yourself, this is what good people do. This is what love looks like. You kept a running tab of everyone else's needs and never once submitted your own invoice. The turning point. Then one day someone called, and you looked at the phone, and you just did not pick up. Not because you were busy, not because you forgot. You saw the name. You knew exactly what the conversation would be, how it would start, how it would end, how you would hang up feeling like something had been taken from you, again. And for the first time, you chose yourself over that feeling. The phone stopped ringing. You waited for the guilt. It came, briefly, and then something else came behind it. Quiet. Real, actual quiet. Not the kind you fill with distraction, the kind that means you're finally in a room where nobody is asking anything of you. The world did not fall apart. That person survived without you. And you realized you had been treating your presence like oxygen for people who were perfectly capable of breathing on their own. The science section. Here is what was actually happening inside you in that moment, and why your brain made that call before you consciously did. Neuroscientist Dr. Matthew Lieberman spent decades studying the social brain. What he found is this: human beings process social pain in many of the same neural regions as physical pain. When someone drains you repeatedly, when connection consistently costs more than it gives, your brain does not categorize that as a relationship problem. It categorizes it as a threat, and the brain's entire job is to move you away from threats. Your brain was not being antisocial, it was being accurate. People who spend years giving, fixing, explaining, and carrying the emotional weight of everyone around them often reach a point where one-sided relationships stop feeling acceptable. Not because they become cold, because they become calibrated. Your nervous system learned the difference between connection and consumption, and it started refusing to confuse the two, the deeper root. But if you're honest with yourself, this did not start with that one phone call you didn't answer. It started much earlier. Maybe in a house where love was conditional, where moods shifted without warning, where you learned to scan the room before you could explain why, where closeness always came attached to something. A demand, a disappointment, a performance you had to give before affection was granted. You adapted. You learned. You survived. You became incredibly good at reading people, at predicting problems, at protecting yourself quietly, without making a scene, without asking for help, because asking for help never felt safe either. And now, as an adult, when someone begins to recreate that old feeling, that unpredictability, that exhaustion, that sense of giving without receiving, your system doesn't wait. It exits, cleanly, quietly, without drama. Because drama is what you spent a childhood trying to avoid. The reframe. This is where most people get it wrong. They see someone cutting people off and immediately think, cold, avoidant, unloving. But there is a difference between leaving because you're afraid and leaving because you finally learned what you need. One person runs from vulnerability. The other walks away from imbalance. Those are not the same thing, not even close. If you cut someone off and spent weeks drowning in guilt, that deserves reflection. But if you cut someone off and felt your shoulders relax, if you felt lighter, if you felt peace replacing tension, pay attention to that. That isn't always avoidance. Sometimes it's accuracy. Sometimes it's your nervous system finally telling you the truth. The crown. The ability to walk away from what no longer serves you is not emotional immaturity. It's one of the most difficult things a human being can do. Most people ignore the signals. They stay, they tolerate, they endure. They sacrifice themselves to avoid disappointing others. But you learn to listen. You learn to trust what your body had been trying to tell you all along. That isn't coldness. That's self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is rare. The new identity. Society has a label for people like you. Loner, cold, commitment phobic, difficult. Here's a different word. Discernment. Discernment is not the absence of warmth. It's warmth with standards. It's love that understands its own value. It's knowing your energy isn't infinite. Your time isn't public property. And access to you is not something everyone automatically earns. You are not isolated. You are intentional. The landing. If your life has become quieter, if your circle has become smaller, if your phone buzzes less than it used to, sit with that feeling for a moment. Not what it looks like from the outside, not what other people think. What does it actually feel like? In your body, in your chest, in the silence of an ordinary morning. And if the answer is lighter, if the answer is peaceful, that may not be loneliness at all. It may be the sound of a life that finally fits. You are not running away from people. You are running toward yourself, toward peace, toward freedom, toward a version of your life that doesn't require you to abandon yourself in order to belong. The permission. So if you've been carrying guilt about the people you walked away from, hear this clearly. You are not cold. Cold people don't think this deeply about the impact of their choices. You are not heartless. Heartless people don't carry this weight. And you are not incapable of love. You simply decided that your love deserves somewhere healthy to land. You did not give up on people. You gave up on the version of yourself that accepted less than you needed and called it loyalty. That took courage, quiet courage, private courage, the kind nobody applauds because nobody saw the years it took to get there. Your peace is not a consolation prize. It's the whole point. If something in this felt like a sentence you've been waiting years to hear out loud, leave a comment, even if it's just one word. You're not alone. Protect your peace. You earned it.